Yeah, and let's bring in Yu Dee here for an instant audit. He's the principal trader for Ace Investment. Joins us from D.C. this morning. Good to see you again, Yu Dee. The idea here that the banks are hiding what's on their balance sheet may not come as a surprise to a lot of people who follow Wall Street very closely. But what do we take away from this? Because we're trying to reform the financial system right now, and if these banks are just working to get around any kind of reform, I mean, are we ever going to know what's going on?
Yeah, seriously, you mentioned good questions. It's really nothing new. This practice is pretty much in place since about 2001. Federal Reserve actually tracked the data. They actually do not enforce it. SEC is the organization that should be enforcing it, but that's what they do. Basically, they take the money of the loan from the loan where they buy securities, and they put up security to borrow more money, so on and so forth, thus amplifying both losses and profit. I think that's just going to be a practice that's going to keep going on unless you really enforce the rules.
Well, Yu Dee, when I was reading this story in the Wall Street Journal this morning, I kept thinking about wrestlers who have to make weights. They have to get their body weight down to a certain level, and then as soon as they weigh in, they hit the weight, then they can go ahead and kind of fuel up before their fight. So it made me think, how bad is this really? Is this really misleading investors about the health of the banks? Or, as you were just talking about, is this just kind of part of the banking, I don't know, the behavior that we've just come to learn how to deal with?
Yeah, seriously, I think it's both. Basically, it is a behavior that sort of is cheating the public and themselves, basically. Chuck Prince, I think, during his testimony said that, Rubin also included saying that we really didn't realize the risk that the banks were taking, rightfully so. Look, all these individual units are doing, so sometimes maybe the people even at the top of the banks don't realize what kind of risk they're taking, the banks are really taking, not to say the public.
And Yu Dee, on that, do you think the banks are misleading themselves?
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. I'll give you an example. I think a recent trade was that a Bank of America trader really, I guess, so-called bought a mortgage-backed security loan of about $40 billion within a quarter. Thus, he doesn't really have to report that. So as far as reporting is concerned, that never showed up. That loan actually initially went from $40 billion up to $60 billion before falling back to $25 billion. So bank actually had a paper profit and losses, for that matter, that was never reported.
Last thing, Yu Dee, this is a practice that's not illegal. This should be worth pointing out, but should it be? I mean, somebody looking in at this business from the outside might say this kind of stuff is crazy. This is allowed?
Well, that's why people are talking about a little bit about the so-called Glass-Steagall, saying that maybe you should separate the unit. Maybe you could do this with your own money, but do not take the public money to do this with. So I agree with you. Right now, you're right. It's a loophole. It's not illegal. Maybe we should make it so-called illegal.
All right. Well, we're going to continue to watch this story, see maybe what comes up of this new report. Yu Dee, thank you very much. Yu Dee's going to be with us throughout the morning here on Fox Business, as is Ashley Webster.